Okay, you guys. So what I want to go over today is our 4th grade Geometry 2 standard, which says that we're going to be able to classify two-dimensional figures based on the presence or absence of parallel or perpendicular lines, or the presence or absence of angles of a specified size. You're going to be able to recognize right triangles as a category and identify different types of triangles. Okay, so basically, to simplify that, what I'm saying to you is we need to be able to see a flat, a 2D shape, and be able to understand what it is, not based just on the picture, but based also on what type of angles does it have, what type of lines does it have. And we're going to go over those terms today and kind of talk about how do we recognize which shape is which and how do we classify triangles? How do we tell what type of triangle is which? Okay. To do that, you're going to have to kind of think back to what we were learning not last week, but the week before, where we went over lines and points. We went over the different types of angles, the right angles, acute angles, and obtuse angles. Do you guys remember that? Yes? Perfect. Yes. So we're going to be using that understanding so that we can go ahead and classify these shapes. So we're basically building on what we learned a couple weeks ago. All right, so I'm going to present my screen to you guys so that you can see the PowerPoint that I'm working off of. And like I said, if you have questions, you can go ahead and raise your hand or unmute yourself if you need to so that I can take care of those questions as we're going along and make sure you understand. I want to show you a window. Hold on, I don't know if that's correct. Sorry. I want you to see this PowerPoint. Present now. There we go. Okay, should be sharing now. Is it coming up? Thumbs up from Cole, that looks good. Thumbs up from Affinity. Oh, double thumbs up from Affinity, awesome. All right, you guys. So, look at those beautiful transitions, I love it. Hold up. I can tell I need to let someone into the chat room. Hold on. There we go. Hey, Sophia. Okay, so we just started our lesson for today. Our lesson is going to be on quadrilaterals. Okay, and quadrilaterals, when you hear that word, you should hear the word quad in there, and quad means four. Right, so we're talking about four-sided shapes. We're going to talk about four-sided shapes today, and then we're going to talk about triangles right afterwards. A parade of four-sided polygons. There are many different types of quadrilaterals. We identify quadrilaterals using their sides as well as their angles. Okay, so what that means is we have to know those terms that we were talking about when we said parallel, meaning lines that never cross, right? That's one of the terms you're going to need to know because it's one of the ways that we classify quadrilaterals. How many parallel sides or how many parallel lines do they have? We also use the word congruent, and congruent means exactly the same size. And again, we use that for the lines to tell which sides are exactly the same length. You'll also hear people classify quadrilaterals using angles. So they'll tell you whether there's a certain number of right angles or an acute angle, etc. And that's how we're going to identify them, basically using their definition. Okay, so all polygons are made up of line segments. Remember how we talked about line segments, and those are those ones that have a distinct beginning and end. Okay, so we have a line segment with a beginning and an end, and those are used to create those shapes and angles for the shape. The line segments that create quadrilateral will be parallel. Talked about those lines that never cross. Perpendicular, meaning they cross and they create 90-degree angles, or they might intersect, which is just where they're going to cross at any point. Okay, the opposite sides of this first shape, that purple shape, the opposite sides of this quadrilateral, that purple shape is the one that I'm referring to, are parallel, meaning they're never going to cross. Okay, so they would describe that shape to you as having two sets of parallel lines, the ones that are running like this and the ones that are running like this. The adjacent sides of this quadrilateral are perpendicular. Adjacent means sitting right next to. Okay, so for instance, on my desk, my computer is adjacent to my water cup. Okay, so it just means right next to. The adjacent sides of this quadrilateral, talking about that red trapezoid right there, are intersecting, meaning they cross. You guys have heard these words even before we left for break. I was trying to get you guys ahead, and I had done the interactive notebooks with you. So these are words that you know. We're just having to try and bring them back to where we're using them more frequently, and they're staying in our memory. The angles that make up polygons will be right angles, acute angles, or obtuse angles. Okay, so what we need to remember is that right angles are that 90-degree angle that makes that perfect corner like that, right? And sometimes we'll be talking about acute angles, the small angles less than 90 degrees, or obtuse angles that are larger than 90 degrees. Okay, I'm hoping these hand gestures are helping a little bit because I was using them in the classroom, hopefully connecting back to what we learned before. Usually with quadrilaterals, we only really use right angles to classify. It's not often that they use acute or obtuse angles. That's more frequently used in triangles, but you do have to know all three angles to be able to do that. The angle that makes up this vertex is the corner of this quadrilateral, is acute. Okay, so you guys see that parallelogram that's basically tipped on its side there, or I guess you could probably refer to it as a rhombus actually as well. You've got the vertex, the corner, creating an acute angle, a less than 90-degree angle. That orange square that's in the center, that angle makes up the vertex of this quadrilateral, is a right angle. So it creates a perfect corner, a 90-degree angle. The angle that makes up the vertex of this quadrilateral, the red shape, is obtuse. Okay, so your rhombus there is obtuse.
Because it's bigger.
That's right, because it's bigger than 90 degrees. Good job, Evan. Okay, so now I'm going to go through each of the quadrilaterals with you, and I'm going to talk to you about how do we classify them. So how do we talk about them? Because generally in fourth grade, they won't show you the picture of that green square there. Instead of that, they're going to talk to you about the sides and the angles so that you're able to recognize, okay, that connects to the definition that I know equals a square. Okay, so a square is a quadrilateral that has 4 equal sides and 4 right angles. Usually we would say 4 congruent sides because congruent means they are all the same length. This square has 4 right angles, right, each corner, and all 4 sides are congruent. They are the same length. How many pairs or sets of parallel sides do you see? So how many sets of parallel lines are there in a square? You guys can unmute yourselves.
4.
So you see 4 congruent lines. Okay, I agree because it's a quadrilateral, right? So it has 4 congruent lines. But I see 2 parallel sides, right? Because remember, you need 2 lines for it to be parallel. So I see top is parallel to bottom, right? And this side is parallel to this side. So we have 2 sets of parallel lines. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Good. Thank you for participating, Evan, though. It makes it a lot easier to teach you guys. Hold up a second because I heard someone else come into the meeting.
Someone said that their iPod just glitched.
If you guys are having any technical difficulty, just leave the meeting and then come on back in, because a lot of times if I find mine is being glitchy, it will be fine when I reload it, when I go back in.
Okay, I'm gonna rejoin.
Okay. All right, back to the PowerPoint. Can you guys still see that?
Yep.
Awesome. Okay, so now we're to rectangles, and rectangles are similar to squares in that they have two pairs of parallel sides, right? Top and bottom, and then these two sides are parallel. But not all of the sides are congruent. So that means that not all of them are equal length. Okay, but it does have 4 right angles, just like a square. So do you hear me kind of using some of those same words to connect different shapes together? This is how we want you to be thinking about geometry and thinking about shapes. This rectangle has 4 right angles, so 4 90-degree angles, and 2 pairs of parallel sides that are congruent. So what they mean is this parallel side, the top, parallel to the bottom, these 2 lines are congruent, so they're the same length. This parallel line is parallel to this line over here, and they're also congruent. They're the same length. Okay, it's not saying that these are congruent to these, but these are congruent, and these are congruent. Okay? If all 4 sides were equal or congruent, would this shape still be a rectangle? You guys are so respectful. You're so quiet. If I changed this shape and all 4 sides were equal, all 4 sides were congruent, would this shape still be a rectangle?
No, it would be a square.
Beautiful. You guys are so smart. Oh, I miss you so much. Okay, keep going. Good job. Thank you. That just lets me know to you guys that you're understanding me and that I don't have to go back. So you participating is super great, because then I can hear what you're thinking. I can correct things if you're kind of on the wrong track.
Miss
And then I can also
Burgess,
hear if you're on the right track, so that I don't bore you to death by going over it and over it. Okay?
I can't see
Okay.
anything.
You can't see anything? Hold on, let me get out real quick and see. On mine, my presentation is up right next door to my face. You guys can't see what I'm presenting?
Yep.
I can.
You can?
I can.
It
I
says
can.
it's presenting right now, so if you're struggling, maybe go back in and out again.
Okay.
It looks like the majority of you guys can see it, so I'm gonna keep going. Whoever's whistling, please stop, because I can't present when you guys are doing that. Thank you. Okay, rhombuses. A rhombus is a quadrilateral that has 4 equal sides and 2 pairs of parallel sides. Okay, listen to that again, because I'm going to ask you which shape does that sound like. A rhombus is a quadrilateral, so a 4-sided shape, a 4-sided figure. All 4 sides are equal, and it has 2 pairs of parallel sides. What does that sound like?
A square.
Yeah, it sounds exactly the same as a square, right? So the only difference with this is the right angles. We don't have 4 right angles here. It says the rhombus has 4 congruent sides and 2 pairs of parallel sides. So could a square be a rhombus?
Yeah, when I tip my iPad, I can see it like a square.
Yeah, you're right. You kind of just are turning it, right? So it's basically another name for a diamond. We don't use diamond anymore when we go to 4th grade, right? But the definitions of these are very similar. Okay, trapezoids. A trapezoid is a quadrilateral that has 1 pair of parallel sides. So in my mind, when I see trapezoids, I don't know why, but it always makes me think of a circus. I think I've told you guys that before. It reminds me of that thing that lions stand on when they're going to do tricks, right? Or it might also remind you of a triangle that's kind of had the top of it chopped off. Trapezoid has 1 pair of parallel sides. The parallel sides are the top and the bottom. Okay, can you identify, oh, I just gave you the answer to that. Can you identify which two sides are parallel? The top and the bottom, like I just said, right? Then you have acute angles that are providing the two sides, right? Because there is always at a tipped angle. Do trapezoids have to have sides that are congruent? What do you think?
Yes.
Yes? Which sides would you say would be congruent?
The top.
Okay. You were on the right track, so you can have congruent sides, but they're going to be the sides that are tipped. But sometimes they're not congruent. It depends. Sometimes we'll see those trapezoids where you have a right angle, you have a straight line here. The top is still parallel to the bottom, and then you have that angle going across. Okay. Other times you'll see a trapezoid like this, and then those two sides are congruent. You're correct. A top and bottom are never congruent because the top is always shorter than the long bottom to create the shape. I like how you guys are getting used to the word congruent though. Like you understood what I was asking you. I was asking you about the lengths of the sides. So that's really good. Next one is parallelograms, which is my favorite one to say, parallelograms. That is a quadrilateral that has two pairs of parallel sides, hence the name, right? We see the word parallel right in there. Parallelograms have parallel sides here, top and bottom, and then the tilted sides are also parallel. Even though they're at an angle, they're still never going to cross. They're still going to continue to be parallel. This parallelogram has two pairs of parallel sides. Could you draw a parallelogram that looks different than this one? So what's one thing I could do to make it look a little different than this one?
I know.
What could you do, Evan?
You can flip the picture the other way, like the right side, and then it'll be different.
Yeah, beautiful. Like as if you were holding a mirror up to it, right? You flip it. Other things you could do would be extending those longer sides, right? That would make it look just a little bit different.
Yep.
Good job. Okay, quadrilaterals. With your newly found knowledge, you will be able to identify quadrilaterals everywhere. Try it out on these. So what are we seeing? What's the purple shape?
Rectangle.
Rectangle. What about the orange?
Trapezoid.
Quadrilateral.
Trapezoid, good. The blue one?
Square.
Which one?
Which blue? The
Oh, sorry, the darker blue?
square. Square.
Quadrilateral.
Good, and they're all quadrilaterals, right? Because they're all four-sided shapes. So there's a lot of different ways that we can say these, right? Oh, that's a quadrilateral, and it's also a rectangle, but it also is a rhombus, right? They can be classified and they can overlap. What about that lime green one?
Parallelogram.
Good. The red?
Diamond. Rhombus.
Good. You're both correct. Diamond and rhombus, right? But fourth grade, we want to use the word rhombus just because that's your mathematician word. All right, guys, good job. Okay, so that's only half of the standard though. Okay, so I'm going to close this and I want to present to you triangles. So you guys got quadrilaterals, your four-sided shapes. You guys learned about how we use parallel lines, perpendicular lines, the word congruent, and different angles in order to classify them. Now we have to extend that, and we're going to learn how do we classify triangles. You're doing awesome so far. I know that it's not easy learning like this, but you guys are participating, you're being respectful, you're listening, you're giving me correct answers, so I know you're on the right track. I'm super proud of you. Okay, let's do this one.
Hi.
Play from the start. All right, so we have triangles. Classifying triangles can happen by either the angles or the sides, okay? Triangles are almost a little trickier because you can use one or the other, or sometimes you use both, Okay, so if you're going to take notes at all, this would be the section. Hold up a second. Evan, were you asking me a question, babe?
Yeah, I couldn't see.
Is it not coming up?
Yeah, I can't see the presentation either.
Yeah,
I can't see.
Okay, hold up. Let me try and fix it.
it's just a black piece of paper.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
With a couple
Okay, hold
dots.
on.
Yeah.
I got this, right? I got this. Hold up. Let's look at. Okay, how about now? You see
Yes.
the triangle?
Yes.
Yeah,
Triangles and wavy letters.
I'm learning so much about technology right now, as well as, obviously learning how to teach online. I hope you guys are kind of taking the opportunity to learn more about tech as well while we're in this weird space and place. Okay, I'm gonna go back to presenting.
All right.
Thank you for letting me know about the problem though. Okay, triangles. Classifying the triangles by angles and sides. You're going to use words like right, so our 90-degree angles, obtuse, an angle that's between 90 and 180, and acute, any angle that is smaller than 90 degrees. This is an acute triangle. What do you notice about all three angles in this triangle?
I don't know.
Do you see any right angles?
No, they're all acute.
Exactly. They're all acute. Okay, so an acute triangle just literally means that it is made up of three acute angles. I don't know if you remember back to when we were doing our interactive notebooks, but I told you guys that triangles equal 180 degrees. Just like when we're learning about circles, they equal 360 degrees. So sometimes that understanding that triangle angles will all add up to 180 can help us to figure out what type of triangle it is. An acute triangle is a triangle whose angles are all acute. Cute little tiny angles. This is an obtuse triangle. What do you notice about this one?
All of the angles
It's small.
all obtuse.
Okay, so wait. I see two small angles, and then what?
One obtuse.
One obtuse angle. Okay, now the reason for that is you're only going to find the one obtuse angle because a triangle can only equal 180 degrees. If one of the angles is more than 90 degrees, the other two angles have to be acute in order to equal that 180. Okay, so an obtuse triangle has one obtuse angle. You can try and draw a triangle with two obtuse angles if you want to right now, but I will tell you it's going to be impossible. It cannot be done. So for instance, if that top angle up there, say that was 120 degrees, right? And I told you that triangles are 180 degrees. How many degrees would I have left over after that obtuse angle takes up 120 of the degrees?
Mom, I need to go to the bathroom.
That's fine.
We'd have 160.
I'd have 60, right? I'd have 60 left over. So if that top angle is obtuse and it's 120 degrees, then my other two angles have to be 30 degrees, right? Because I told you that every triangle has to equal 180 degrees. So because we have an obtuse angle, it's automatically going to make it so the other two are obtuse. It is impossible to draw a triangle that has two obtuse angles. This is a right triangle. What do you notice about this triangle?
It has one right angle.
Yeah, one right angle. Just in the corner there is 90 degrees.
This one?
Yes, friend?
Oh, I didn't know you can hear me through my headphones.
Yeah, I can hear you. I got you. Did you need something?
No, I was just seeing if my headphones actually work when I'm away.
Okay. Well, now you know you can get a hold of me if you need me. A right triangle is a triangle with a right angle. Try to draw a triangle that has two right angles. What's going to happen?
gonna become square.
It's gonna square.
Yeah, it's going to be like a trapezoid more, right? Because you can't have two 90-degree angles. You need to have one 90-degree angle, and then the triangle equals 180 degrees, right? So there's only 90 degrees left over for the other two angles. That means that generally they're going to be 45 and 45. What kind of triangle is this? Good job. It's an obtuse angle. I see one obtuse angle, therefore it would be classified as obtuse.
Obtuse, yep.
What about this guy?
Obtuse angle.
Obtuse.
Acute.
Yeah, cute.
No, wrong.
This one's tricky.
Oh.
Do you see where the little square is there?
Oh, it's
You have a
just
90-degree
tilted.
angle where it's made a perfect corner. They like to do this to you. I know you guys didn't have to have AZ merit or district testing or anything, but this is something in testing. A lot of times they'll tip the triangle or tip the shape just to kind of disguise that right angle. So always be looking for that, okay? What about this guy?
Acute.
Obtuse.
acute.
I agree with acute. There are three acute angles here. All right. So the other thing is that you can name a triangle by the lengths of its sides. Okay, so we've already learned that we can name a triangle by looking at its angle. So first one there would be an acute triangle, right, on the left-hand side. Then we have an obtuse triangle, and then we have a right triangle. I'm just naming them based on what angles I can see.
Acute, obtuse, and the right.
Good.
Oh, you put a right in the left corner.
Yeah, true. That is kind of funny, huh? And then did you know that you can also name a triangle by looking at its sides? So I don't know if you guys remember back, again, we were doing this right before we left. We went over isosceles, scalene, and equilateral. So that's what we're going to go over now. All right. What do you notice about this triangle's sides?
It's perfect.
Yeah, it's perfect. Good job, Alex. So they all are exactly the same length, right? And that's why you're describing it as perfect, because they're all congruent. No matter how many ways I flipped this, it would still look the same. All three sides are the same length. So this is called an equilateral triangle. You see that word equal in there, right? It's not spelled correctly, but you hear it. Equal meaning each side is equal. That's how you can remember equilateral triangles.
I've never heard of one of those.
No, I think it's because we only went over it a little bit before we left, Bud. That's why we're kind of reviewing now to make sure you guys have it for 5th grade. Look at this triangle. What do you notice about this one's sides?
The top's stronger than the bottom. Than each other.
Good. So the two sides are making like a really sharp point, right? Because they're longer than the bottom. Two of the sides are the same length. So this is called an isosceles triangle. Isosceles means equal and skelos means leg. If you put it together and you have a triangle with two equal legs. Okay, so isosceles triangles have two congruent sides, two equal lengths. Hopefully, Isai, this is starting to help you with that paper that you had in front of you as well, because this is exactly the information you would need to complete that. Okay, look at this triangle. What do you notice about this guy? Again, talking about the sides, not the angles.
All the sides are different.
It's uneven.
Yeah, it's uneven. All the sides are different. I heard you guys say. Good. None of the sides are the same length. None of them are congruent. So the name for this is scalene triangle. Scalene comes from, I can't see that on my screen because of the way that as I'm sharing, but basically it means uneven or unequal. Right? So some of you guys even described it as that. Oh, it's uneven, it's unequal. It doesn't look like any of them are the same. That is scalene. Yeah.
Someone said in the chat, what I need help going a little fast.
Oh, is it too fast? I'm sorry. So hold up. Let me.
Oh, Stephanie.
Good, Brooklyn. But remember too, you guys, I'm going to email this back out to you so you can even replay it if you need to. Okay, so it'll be available to you throughout the week when you're doing your work. You can replay it, go to the exact point you need, and then stop it there. Do any of you guys have questions you want me to go over real quick?
No.
No.
No. Okay, hold on. I'm just quickly scanning the chat just to see if there's anything. It looks like you guys were just kind of helping each other with getting in and out of the chat room. No questions. All right, I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint then. So we notice that none of the sides are the same length. That's called scaling. Okay, let's see if we can sort some triangles now with the information that I just went over. Oh,
Thank you.
you're welcome. You're fabulous. I guess it didn't have the triangles loaded in it. That was weird. Let me go back real quick and just see if I messed that up. I don't either. I see a square. I see a quadrilateral. They tricked me. Okay, so instead of sorting them on here,
I cannot hear things.
instead of doing them on here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to present you guys
Cannot hear.
the Kahoot game that we can log on together,
I can't.
and then we can play. Okay, so I'm going to minimize this.
Doing groups?
No, you're going to do it individual because you guys are not together. So,
Makes sense.
I know, right? Now, I haven't done this before, so I don't know how this is going to work with all of us, okay? But I'm going to try it. I'm going to present my tab to you. It will show you how you're going to open up a new tab on your browser. You're going to go to Kahoot, right? And you're going to join the game. So hold on a second. Let me show you.
Okay.
I want you to see my tab. I want you to see Kahoot. Okay. Can you see my tab?
Yeah.
All right. So I think you're going to go to create.kahoot.it, or hold up a second. Kahoot.it.
What?
Kahoot.com.
Can you see that tab right now? Kahoot.it.
No.
Yeah.
No. Why can't we just do the
I've
question?
played this before.
Yeah.
Okay. So whatever you're using, if you're using Chrome or you're using Explorer, you're going to open up a new tab. Okay. And then you're going to type Kahoot, Kahoot, period, or dot, IT.
Wait, what?
What? What? Stop talking. Everybody stop talking.
Long here. I found Kahoot.
Kahoot.it.
What's the
Weird. It's not .com for some reason. It's Kahoot, KAHOOT.IT. Logan, were you on question?
what's the game pin?
Okay, so I'm about to give you the game pin. I just wanted to give everyone a chance to get there. Hold up a sec.
Go.
Miss Burgess,
Okay. Yes, friend.
I don't know how to get there.
What are you using right now? Are you using like Chrome?
I'm there.
Or
I don't know.
I don't know. Are you using an iPad or a laptop?
An iPad.
Can you open up a new tab as if you were going on an internet site?
How do I do that?
There should be like a plus sign.
That's what I thought, like a little plus sign on the side, and then it'll
There's like a plus
window.
sign in the top of
I
that.
just put Kahoot.
I don't see that.
KAHOOT.IT.
Okay. Do we
I have to use the
put
phone
game pin or
to
enter?
open my email.
I'm going to give you the game pin in a second. Let me just give everyone a chance to get there real
Do
quick.
we
I
do?
don't see it.
Do we do?
It's loading.
Do
Oh,
we
look, I see it.
sign in
Nope.
or enter?
You can just play as a guest.
Okay.
There's no
It's probably
guest
here.
on here.
Okay, hold on.
It doesn't have guest.
Mine just says game pin. Yeah, mine
Yes,
too.
mine says game pin and enter.
Okay, if you're ready to join me, do you see my screen right now?
Yeah.
Okay. So hold on, I'm going to turn the sound off.
Use it.
I can't see. It's black.
I can see the screen.
So the pin is 1658889.
Wait.
1, 6.
Can you type it in the chat? I can't get on.
What?
Wait, what is it?
1658889.
Wait, what?
Wow.
I can't
165889.
If you guys see my tab, that should help.
I can't. What is it? So
1658889.
Yeah.
I can't do it. 165889.
That's bad.
Guys, I'm confused.
Do we have to enter a nickname?
Oh, 3-8.
I think it's going to make you enter a nickname.
Okay.
Wait, what?
Okay.
I'm just gonna do.
If you're on the website right now and you've entered the pin, can you give me a thumbs up so I can see who's got it?
I ran to one so.
Thanks, Alex.
Oh, okay.
Wait, what's
I don't know how to do it. Please help me.
You go to this website right here. Do you see the tab that I'm presenting right now? www.kahoot.it. Okay, and then it's going to ask you for a game pin so that you can play. I see 6 of you are logged in right now. 6 players.
What's the game pin?
The game pin is 1658889. So now I see 8 of you in here.
I'm Cookie.
I'm Shadow Arts.
It won't let me go in.
Try 8, not 2-8.
Okay, I have over half of you in here so far. There we go, it's 9.
165.
Looking for 5 more of you.
8.
Affinity, can you put in this web address, www.kahoot.it? Hold on, let me put it in the chat.
You can go to Safari and open a new tab to do it.
Yeah, so here's the website. You see it in the chat, and then here is the pin.
What's the pin?
Hold on, I'm putting it in the chat.
Nothing. I wanted to see if you wanted to play Kahoot with me in my class.
What's the game pin?
The pin is right here in the chat. You guys see it?
I mean,
Or
you
look at
wouldn't
my
sign
tab.
in,
I'm presenting my tab right now.
you would just be with me right here.
Okay, I'm gonna give it a second more, and then I'm gonna go ahead and start it. We're getting close to finishing our hour.
The answer to that.
Mine is so
Yay, I'm in.
I don't think I am anymore.
What now? I think I'm
You won't be able to see the camera and the game at the same time. That's okay.
My sister's here with me.
Just what's the game pin?
Okay. I see some of you guys.
1658889.
I'm so excited. I have no idea.
And play.
What's just the game pin?
I put the in the chat, and it's then saying.
I wanted to do emoji, but then I remembered.
Okay, guys. I'm going to go ahead and start it. If you guys don't have it, just watch the tab up there and you can try and answer as we're going along. You can even kind of answer in your mind, and then when we go over the answers, we can talk about it. Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. There are 13 questions.
No. Question 1.
Which term best describes the quadrilateral below?
I can't.
What? I can't even hear.
No way, I just guessed and I got it right.
I think I got it.
That was a parallelogram because that had the two top
I couldn't even
that
hear
were
the
parallel
question.
and slanted sides.
Miss Burgess, I couldn't hear the question.
It should be coming up on your screen too, right?
No.
The question isn't showing.
Don't watch the camera, watch the Kahoot game.
Yeah, I know. It doesn't tell us like which one, like what the
So from our end, we have to look at the screen share you're giving, and then to answer it, they have to go over to other tab.
Oh no.
It's not a big deal. So guys, that's what you're gonna do. You're gonna look at the question on your screen, but where Mrs. Burgess's face is, and then click over to the actual Kahoot and answer it.
Did you understand what Wolf was saying?
I don't. Yeah.
No.
So she's saying just watch my screen and listen when I read the question, and then hop back over to the game.
I can't see your presentation.
Hey, Stephanie, all you have to do is look over at the top. You have tabs. Go to the tab that says Meet, and then look at the question. And then when you go to answer it, you go to the tab that says Kahoot. Okay?
You're the best. Appreciate you, Mrs. Wolf. Okay, let's do question 2.
Let's go.
Someone's named Unicorn. I like it.
Definitely Summer.
Okay, is the following shape a trapezoid?
Oh.
Is that a trapezoid? Yes or no?
Wait, which one's that? No, yeah. Oh, okay.
That's how I got it.
I probably got it wrong.
It is.
Yay!
I'm behind. Okay, how do we do? Unicorn is still in the lead with Josh Panda and Alex following right behind. Very good.
Wait, is Cole Trash Panda?
I'm not sure. Which term best describes the quadrilateral below? So how would you name this shape? Is it a rhombus, a square, a rectangle, or a trapezoid?
I don't know. I did it wrong, probably.
Okay, good. 11 of you got it. Good job. It was a rhombus. It looked like a diamond, right?
Yes.
See how we're doing. Oh, Deadpool is up in the world.
I'm good.
Oh, what the heck?
Okay. Which term best describes the quadrilateral below? Okay, so which term is the best one to use for this quadrilateral? Because you're smart.
Did I pick the wrong one?
I just find it easy because you're smart.
I got it wrong.
Woo!
I thought it was a square.
Yeah.
Yes.
I got it.
None of you guys got rectangle. Good job.
Yeah.
I'm done.
Let's see.
I can't see anything.
Okay, now I'm last.
Still awesome.
Okay, I'm last. Wow.
Unicorn.
On the track.
Went from third to last. I have no idea how.
The following shape is a rhombus, so it must have what? Does it have 4 equal sides? Does it have 4 right angles? Does it have 1 pair of parallel sides? Or it has none of these? It's not a rhombus. I got it. Cool music. Good job.
Let's go.
Sides or congruent sides is exactly.
I can't see
Love this
anything.
game. Love this game.
I want to see my name up
Where am
there.
I?
Hold me my name.
Unicorn Gill keeps moving up in the world. Look at that. Good job. 5 players have reached an answer streak of 4. Good job. 4 in a row.
I think I have.
The following is a trapezoid, so it must have only 1 pair of parallel sides,
Oh God.
4 right angles, 3 obtuse angles, or no perpendicular line.
Oh God.
I don't know.
Got this. Look at the sheet.
I'm just guessing now.
Those right angles are 90-degree angles. Does it have 4 of them?
Yeah, I don't know.
You get out the answers that don't make sense, right? 1 pair of parallel
Okay, I
sides.
think I know what to do now.
I have no idea
They had
what.
2 right angles in the trapezoid that they drew.
They're all of them
Have
right.
4. It didn't have 3 obtuse angles. And it does have perpendicular lines, right? Because we look at the adjacent corners. So you got to cross off those answers that don't make sense. Unicorn still in the lead. Tia jumped up to 2nd. Good job.
I really want to win. Really need to win.
The following shape is a square. Which other term does not describe the shape? So it's a square, but what other term would you not be able to use?
This is too easy. I don't know. I don't think I'm gonna get this one.
Yellow. What? Yellow.
Yeah.
Okay, you can spread out a little bit. So we know that a square
That one
is
took me a while
definitely
to
a quadrilateral because it has 4 sides. We know that a square is a rhombus tilted on its axis, right? Because it's a diamond. We know that a rectangle and a square share the same definition in that they all have 4 right angles and 4 parallel or 2 sets of parallel sides. So the only one that doesn't work at all is a trapezoid. Okay. Number 8. Which term best describes the shape below? What would we call this? A trapezoid, a quadrilateral, a square, or a rectangle?
Another one. And that's again. Yeah.
I don't think I'm gonna get this one right.
Yeah.
Think about those definitions we just went over.
Yeah.
There's only one that works.
I'm so scared. I'm so scared.
Quadrilateral is the only one that works because the trapezoid has the set of parallel sides. It didn't have that. It couldn't be classified as a square because it didn't have the 4 right angles or the 4 congruent sides. Couldn't be classified as a rectangle because it didn't have the 2 sets of parallel or the 2 sets of congruent sides or the right angles. So quadrilateral was the only one that worked. Unicorn still in the lead.
Unicorn is
You guys, this is your chance to dethrone the unicorn. Classify this triangle below. They gave you 3 angles there, 60 degrees, 60 degrees, and 60 degrees. Based on just the angle, what type of triangle is this?
I don't know. Wait, this one gives you a minute to answer. That is so hard.
That's because this one you're going to have to look at the angles, and then I just realized you're also going to look at the sides, right?
I don't know.
So what type of angles are in that triangle, and then also what are the sides trying to tell us about what type of triangle this is? Hopefully you were able to knock out 2 answers right away that didn't make sense.
Yeah.
Come on, hurry up.
Yeah! Most of you got it. Good job. All 3 angles were acute because they're less than 90 degrees. And then all 3 sides were congruent, so it's equilateral. All 3 sides were equal.
Just need to put it together.
Okay. 10 of 13. Classify this triangle below. Take a look at the angle, and then take a look at the lines. Okay, remember that those little lines are giving you information too. Remember how I told you they're matching something up right before we left for break.
I'm going crazy. I even care at this point, honestly.
Okay,
Oh, yeah,
that was
that's
a tough
right.
one. Okay, so isosceles means that 2 of the sides are equal. Okay, so on that triangle, you had a triangle that looked like this. This side was congruent to this side, right? They're the same length. That makes it isosceles. And then each of the angles located inside the triangle were less than 90 degrees, so it was acute. Okay, when I'm classifying triangles, the first thing I do is I look at the angles because that's the easiest thing for me to recognize what type of angles are represented. And then I think about what does scalene mean, what does isosceles mean, and what does equilateral mean. That way I can figure it out. Okay, 11 of 13.
Get up under the leaderboard.
Okay, to classify this triangle below, you have a triangle there that has the outside is telling you how long the line is. So one is 15, one is 21, and one is 22. And then the inside is telling you the angles. One of the angles is 65, one is 74, and one is 41.
They're all cute.
They are.
Well,
No
can
hint.
do that. All the answers are cute in them.
Repeat that again.
I don't know.
And if this is hard, remember, you just need practice with this because it's just using the terms enough to remember them. Okay, most of you got it. All the angles were acute, right? They were all less than 90, and the triangle was scalene because none of the sides were equal to each other. They were showing you that one was 15, one was 21, one was 22. They were all different lengths, okay? And that's the definition of a scalene triangle. All of the sides are different lengths. None of them are congruent.
Whoa.
Okay, 12 of 13. There's only 2 more questions left. I know we're running over a little bit, but that's okay. All right, so look at this triangle below, and we're going to classify it. We see that the angles are 97, 70, and 13. Okay, so look at the angles first and decide what type of triangle it is. Then look at the lengths of the sides. remember that when they're congruent, those little lines will match up.
The song. I love this game. We should play this more often.
I'm glad it worked out. I was so nervous.
I can't see a thing.
These online lessons, you guys. I try and find fun things, but I never know if they're gonna work out. After like
Watch. Even every time. I will win.
all right, time's up.
Yep.
Well, I didn't
It's
get
obtuse because of that
You know that I hate
97-degree angle. And then none of the sides were equal. Remember how I told you those little lines, when it says 1, 2, 3, there's 1 line, 2 lines, 3 lines. None of them match up. Okay, so that's scalene. Last one. Classify the triangle below. Okay, so we can see we have a 94-degree angle. We have a 43-degree angle and a 43-degree angle. Okay, they also give you the lengths of the sides. We have 5, 5, and 8.
Why don't we get 5 seconds?
I don't even know if it's
So you had a obtuse angle in there, so you wanted to choose obtuse, and then you needed isosceles because 2 of the lengths of the sides were equal. You had 2 of them that were equal to 5. The podium. Gil got 3rd. Good job, Gil. Sophie got 2nd. Good job, Sophia. And who was the unicorn? Because we already know the unicorn one.
I tried to get you Summer.
Runners up were
Who is the unicorn?
The other one went away.
Summer's unicorn.
Summer, you're the great unicorn. Okay.
Oh, good night.
Okay.
Got 4.
That was fun, you guys. Thank you for playing with me and for practicing. Well, Summer was the unicorn. Good job, you guys. Did
I
awesome.
this game with my family.
So I want you to know that when you're practicing, right, and you're doing your worksheets and things like that, there are a lot of resources like this Kahoot out there to make it a little bit more fun for you. If you're struggling at home and you're struggling with your motivation to learn, okay, because you're away from me and we're not in the traditional classroom setting, doing things like that are a fun way to kind of practice and keep things fresh in your mind. Okay, and kind of be competitive with yourself. While I have people on here too, hopefully moms are away, earmuffs if you have moms in the room. How would you guys feel about doing a Mother's Day craft on Wednesday?
What?
A Mother's Day craft on Wednesday? Yes?
I want to do that.
Okay, I'm going to try and figure out how to present me doing things on my table because what I want to do is something that folds paper. I'm going to send out an email to your parents to remind them what supplies I need. But I'm just going to need 2 sheets of paper and like a long stick. It could be a pipe cleaner. It could be like a skewer for a kebab. Or it could just be like a wooden stick or something like that, like a craft stick. That'll all work. A paper clip and some coloring things, and that's going to be it. I'm going to try and keep it really, really simple and cute.
Okay.
And that's what I'll do with you on Wednesday. Okay? Instead of like the categories game or whatever, just because Mother's Day is this Sunday. And normally in class, we would have had our books to give our parents, and it just didn't work out. So I want to try and make that. I know.
I like that.
I know. So I'm going to try and make that up to you guys a little bit by doing this craft with you, okay? So hopefully you come in on Wednesday and I can connect with all of you guys, maybe even more of you so that we can work on that together and then I'll read our story, okay?
Okay.
Any questions about the lesson today?
I'm good. No,
Okay.
I'm good.
I recorded it. As long as I have no problems, I'll email it out to you guys. That way you can replay it if you need to. Want to remember the terms and things like that. If you guys are struggling with your work, please remember that I'm around and that I have the live office on Wednesday. Okay, loves?
Okay.
Okay. I will talk to you soon then. Okay, love you so much. Mwah!
Bye.